Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Nicole Curtis. I'm part of the She Rises Studios leadership team, and I'm here with CEO and co-founder of She Rises Studios, Hannah Olivas and Adriana Luna Carlos. As well as these wonderful, beautiful ladies on the screen are the co-authors. We all wrote in this book, Me Too, But Never Again. And we are here today to plant our flag, to have our voices be heard. And we are nervous and we are excited all at the same time. And for us to be able to not just speak our truth and share a message, but we are here to help empower women, inspire women that their voice matters, that no means no. And no matter what triumphs or tragedies that you have experienced in life, either as a child or as a young adult, or even as an older woman, that you are not alone and you have a power of women surrounding you, telling you that you are beautiful, loved, and we are here for you. So I am really excited to kick this morning off wherever you are in the world. It's morning for me. But we have women from all over the world that are here right now on the screen that are going to be sharing a part of their journey, of their life and their story, to make that change, to help make that change and advocate for women all over the world. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass this to Hannah, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
All right, let's find that unmute button. My name is Hannah, and I'm one of the halves of She Rises Studios. Excuse me. This book called Me Too, But Never Again. I think we started working on the project itself approximately 4 months, maybe 5 months ago. But the title and the premise was birthed about a year ago. Unfortunately, within our family, there were generations of this type of subject that happened. And I was always wanting to figure out ways to voice what was happening without scrutiny. But I realized that there's always going to be scrutiny because of the type of subject it is. People will find a way to pick apart the person that it happened to instead of the person who did it. And unfortunately, for me, it was not a family member, but it was someone close to a family member. And I was very young when it happened the first time. And I'm not going to give too much away, but my chapter is called Shattered, but not, or Broken, but not Shattered. There's a reason why, I saw myself as a dirty little girl. I saw myself as unworthy. I always felt like the oddball out. I felt like even strangers knew that I was marked, and I walked that way through life for many, many years. I had to go to therapy. I had to dig deep. I had to go to therapy. And I was really, truthfully, embarrassed to speak about it. I carried a lot of shame. And so when we discussed, the premise of the book, it was very scary. Writing this book itself has been one where I've ripped off Band-Aids. I'm sure once some of the other ladies shared their perspective, it's also been very painful. Triggers come with this type of trauma, but it's how we handle the triggers that make all the difference, and the book itself talks about, can you live a life after the pain? And my answer is, you can. The question is, do you want to? So I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to pass it to Jamie Lynn.
Thank you so much, Hannah. So much that you've just spoke on is it's so heartfelt. This has been like a Band-Aid in many ways, like you said, to be ripped off. My chapter is called Bird Set Free, and I actually chose the title for mine because it's actually the song that Sia sings, and it is if anyone listens to the lyrics, it's about having something keep you completely shut down and held down. And then you find your voice. And you do it for the love of yourself, to set yourself free. And so I invite everybody to listen to that. My story happened when I was much younger. I was active duty in the military, and mine has to do with date rape. And date rape is something that so many people I have come in contact with on my journey has experienced. And what I have found, even when I decided to write this book, when the topic comes up and I share my story, it's as if a gate opens up in somebody's heart that they actually share theirs. And I have had all genders, I've had transgender men, and male and female, share their own story of rape that has happened to them. And for some of them, it was as if that was the first time they could hear themselves say that out loud. And when we have those things, when we can release trauma and those things within us, not only to another person do we feel as we're not alone in it, but we are also setting a release so that we can step into healing and whatever that journey is for us personally in our own unique experience. And I chose to write this book because every other kind of movement or voice that I've seen, it's really been more of a one voice. And I showed up here as a tribe, and this strong tribe of women, that we are making a statement that we are together. This is something that affects 1 in 3 of people globally. And this generational pass down, it's like this taboo that we're not allowed to talk about. And it shouldn't be that way, because there's healing and the release and the awareness and the acceptance of what happened, but nobody ever asked or deserves to be sexually assaulted. Nobody ever deserves to have their free will completely stripped of them. So it is, for me, I truly want, and my hope is that the lights that we are, that if you have been anybody reading this book, if you too have been a survivor, because you are a survivor, that you will find your voice. And it doesn't have to be public, but it needs to be a release, because this isn't something that you deserved, and it's not even yours to keep. So I just am so honored to be a part of this panel of amazing strength and these beautiful women and all of your stories and all of your journey. And I would love to pass the mic to Rachel.
The most difficult thing is finding the unmute button. So thank you, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here as part of the team and part of sharing a united voice, that it was me too, but never again, and that it's a powerful thing that you can heal from. You don't have to feel stuck in that feeling, that because I did that for most of my life, and I hadn't realised how it had impacted me. So I'm Rachel Clare Farnsworth. My business is Wellness with Rachel. I live in the centre of England, near Mansfield, Nottinghamshire. I moved here middle of June, actually. So my title is Finding Purpose from Pain of the Past, because I help other people to heal emotional pain and trauma. Trauma releasing expert, and it's because I've gone through that I can help you, because I've got that reference point. And it hasn't always felt like it's not a beautiful thing to happen, it's not, but it's because I've gone through it, that I can help people, and I give them that safe space that they can heal it at a deep subconscious level. And it doesn't have to take countless sessions of can talk about your pain. We can release it. And for me now, I mean, it happened to me when I was 19. It was date rape too. And I realized how much that had impacted my life, because it reduced my sense of self-trust. Couldn't trust myself. I didn't believe in myself. Didn't think I could at a deep level. I fell for everything, stood for nothing, and thinking that everybody else knew better than me. So I buried this thing in my head. It's like do not fragile, don't touch anything, and it was stuffed in my head, thinking that just I was pushing past it. So I'm not going to share too much of my story because it is in the book, but it that impacted me over and over and over, myself and all those things. But now, and it's funny because I became I'm actually advanced therapist, and I actually trained in this before I realized that I needed help myself. I was everybody else. As long as everybody else is okay, it didn't matter about me. I realized that it has to come from within first. You've got to love yourself first, because if you don't, it's you're giving from an empty cup. Loving you perfectly imperfect, just the way you are, because you always have been. It's just that the wounds and the trauma made you feel less than. That's all that's going on, and none of it was your fault. It's just those stories that you've been told is your fault or whatever. It's none of it's your fault. It's about taking your power back and not feeling a victim and being a warrior, because you are a warrior. You've gone through it. You're a survivor. Amazing. Okay, that's the message. And Me Too pain is just a really powerful way of saying that if it just helps one person, it's worth it, because it is about vulnerability. It's about standing in our own power and saying, yes, it happened to me, but we have that power now to help other people because we've gone through the pain. And that's why finding purpose from pain of the past is vital. So I'm going to pass this to Madison.
Hi guys, thank you for that, Rachel. That was awesome. Yeah, so I'll just jump right in, and my title for my chapter is called Defy Impossible Circumstances. While I was in the middle of the writing process for all of this, I realized that I didn't have a chapter. That was the last thing that came to the chapter itself. And I spoke to my mother about it because she was probably my biggest ally, because I was only 3 years old whenever the abuse was found out. It wasn't even the beginning. That's just when we found out that it was happening, because I was 3 and I didn't realize that that's not normal. And I didn't realize that's not what, your babysitter is supposed to allow. So it was one of those things that, from my cognitive realization of what had happened to me, my mother instilled in me that this is not your fault. You are a baby. You are not able to make these kind of decisions. You don't even have the kind of mindset to understand why and how he did this. And she continuously reminded me, you are not a victim of him. He is not allowed any of your peace. He is not allowed any of your happiness. He is not allowed any of your sadness. He is not allowed a single emotion of yours, because what is yours is yours. It's still Madison's. Nothing belongs to him. And I was a kid. I was a sponge, and so I was super lucky to never ever go into victim mode. And I know that's super easy to do, and I'm not criticizing anyone that does, because it's hard to, one, get out of it, and two, realize you're even in it. And so during my writing process with the chapter, we were talking about it, and she was like, "You need to put the word defy in it because you defy all of the odds all the time." And I'm like, "No, wait, why? No, that doesn't make sense." And my mom is a psychologist, and she goes, "You don't understand. People who have been sexually abused under the age of 10 typically go on to get pregnant at a young age, do drugs, do this, do all these things, get into crime, things like that." She's like, "You've done none of those things, and you are defying your own statistics by just being you." And like that was awesome to be, reminded of. And like I said, she's my number one ally in all of this. She's the one that helped support me and believed me right away and understood everything that I tried to comprehend to her. And she, like, I just would not be the woman I am today without my mother's support in all of my life, but especially that. Like I said, like, it would have just been so easy to, just call all men trash and never trust another man in my life, never trust another babysitter in her life for me, or for me to never want to have kids because of this circumstance. But I my chapter is mostly about looking towards your future, because your future does not belong to your perpetrator. Your future does not belong to the circumstance in which what has happened to you. What has happened to you hurts. What happened to you is a moment in time. And unfortunately, for some of us, it's several moments in time. And I am so sorry for all of that. But we get to choose our future still. We still get to live another day. And that's why we are warriors, because it's not all about fighting through the battle. It's just we get to plan our future. We get to see the future come to fruition that we want, and the future that our perpetrators didn't want us to have, whether they realized it or not. And we get to still be who we are destined to be at the end of the day. And I just, like everyone has said so far, I it opened a lot of wounds when I was writing it. I didn't think I had a lot of trauma left from it. I understand some of the residue and everything and how my brain is wired from it and all that afterwards, but at the same time, I was writing it, I'm like, "Wow, okay, I'm understanding my 26-year-old self a little bit more. Like, it only took this long to understand. Great." But at the same time, it's like, "Okay, this is a learning experience, but I'm not allowing him to be the reason why I'm who I am today. I am who I am today because of my mother. End of story. And I am who I am today because I am resilient, I'm unstoppable, and and I have the support of amazing women like we have in the book. And I have goosebumps thinking about reading everybody's chapters, because everyone here is so professional, so articulate, and they have a passion behind what they're talking about. This isn't this message is more directed to like haters. This isn't like a pity party kind of book. This isn't a book about why we didn't speak up before. This isn't a book about, oh, we're just kind of gossiping and saying like maybe this happened, maybe not. This is a book about truth. This is a book about facts. And this is a book about real life experiences that all of us as women have experienced, gone through, survived, and thrived from. And so at the end of the day, we're the women here still standing. And if this is something you've gone through or a loved one has gone through, just know from the bottom of our hearts that we love you, and you will get through this. You will survive and you will thrive along with the rest of us. So I think I will turn this over to Rebecca. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Madison. That was everyone so far so wonderful. I'm really proud of everyone here in this book and all the women in the She Rises studios. I'm so very grateful to be able to be part of this book and the many others that I've been able to be part of in this studio. My name is Rebecca Chandler. I own and run Holistic Arizona Healing Ranch with my husband here in Tucson, Arizona. Last year, I was privileged to learn of abuses from my childhood. I'm 53, so big gap. I know though that is a common thing to happen as we age and become more mature and able to handle some of the hard things that happen in our lives. They will come to us later in life. So last year I was able, I must have been mature enough as of last year to learn of abuses from my childhood, starting from 18 months old. That definitely affected my life. Like you were saying, Madison, many people, if they haven't had counseling or any other therapies, will have many reactions that perpetuate that abusive lifestyle. I am so very grateful that in my life, for the most part, I've been very protected from that, even with the nature and the duration of abuses that I sustain. In my healing path in this past year, having learned of these very shocking things, I've been given the opportunity to grow in my faith and to increase my reach and influence as well, and helping more people. I wouldn't have guessed that this was my path, but it is, and I'm grateful to find this avenue to help others. I believe, and it has come so clearly to me in the past year, that our purpose in life is to become the best that we can become. And for me, I know my Maker as my Heavenly Father, and I know that I am redeemed through His Son Jesus Christ, and I've been relying on them very heavily in the past year to come through mentally. How could this happen, and how could I still be whole and of use and do some good with this baggage, with this background, with this experience? So I'm sharing my journey right now to help others learn the purposes behind this and many other hardships that they experience. Over 2/3 of the world, so 1 in every 3 women has experienced sexual abuse of some sort. 1 in every 5 males. And many sit in darkness, shame, and silence. A little like Hannah was saying, where I just always had this concept of, darkness is the way life is. I'm dirty. I don't matter. My importance is 0. And that was always underlying every choice I made. Now I'm grateful, so very grateful for the path I had that allowed me to do something and get a great education and still overcome that underlying mantra that I'm learning to overcome now and to rewrite. So my chapter is called When I Learned to Pray. This has been the tool in the past year that I have most relied upon. And if it's if for any listening, for any who have had this experience or any other extreme hardship that they are really uncertain how to process, prayer has been so helpful for me. Meditation can be very helpful as well. It helps you to come to the source of where your true joy can actually return. For me, the prayer is something I use every day now to overcome all the challenges that come at me in my faith, in my understanding of how hard things can happen, in learning patience, joy, and cheer. There is joy and cheer still to be had. We can overcome these things. We can be purified and cleansed through all of these experiences and become better, become something we never thought we could. I never thought I'd be out here doing this kind of work and speaking in public about extremely sensitive, vulnerable topics. But in a way, it's given me my whole life to be able to come out and speak of difficulties. My biggest passion now is to help abusers find the forgiveness that is offered to everyone. And maybe they're not the grouping that each of us wants to just embrace and pat, but in a way, I have compassion for them because I have been redeemed and helped so much in the last year learning of these abuses. So I'm able to say, look, if I can be helped, they still can find forgiveness if they will come forth, not necessarily publicly, just in their hearts, say, yeah, I did this thing, this unthinkable thing, repent. If you know what that truly means, it just means turn around. If you're going in one direction and you realize you're going in the wrong direction, you say, okay, I'm going to reroute. That's repentance. Turn around, go back the other direction, go back to your source, find that forgiveness. And that's, for me, the real message that I have is each of us can be strengthened and brought to our best selves when we learn who we are, when we learn how to come to that source of all power. I find it through prayer, and that's how I become more forgiving, I become more loving, I become a better person, the person I'm meant to be here. All right, with that, I'll turn it over to Frances.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hi, everyone. I am in Brisbane, Australia, and I'm so honored to even be a part of this book chapter. It's this book. It's just really it's just really a lot, actually, when I started writing it, because for me personally, so my book is the chapter, sorry, I can't even speak right now. The chapter is called Hiding Pain Does Damage. And I was raised as an only child, so we lived and traveled all over the world. But my parents were they were a lot older than a lot of my friends. So they were almost like 20 years older. So they're from a very different time, and they weren't very approachable. And with that said, of course, I do love them. And, but the experiences I had started from 16 onwards. And so one of them was, I think was just connecting with someone who actually I've later on understood to be a pedophile. I was like 16 at the time. And so this person actually found me about 15 years later, actually this year. They found me on social media. And so it was very hard to, understand, why they still wanted to connect and things like that. But I think having been a part of writing this book, it's really, helped me to sort of understand, where I'm going, and I'm not looking back in that direction. Especially all of us, we're not looking back in that direction as well. But I think it just really helped a lot, because I didn't think I would cry so much trying to actually write the chapter. So I know a few other ladies felt they cried as well. But I think it was really just to say that the more you hide your pain, it really does damage to you. And not having family members that I could connect with just made it really hard in life. So that's why I made some really amazing friends. But I think just from throughout that whole process, it's just been there's good and bad everywhere, so it's just been a real learning thing. But I actually have a fashion brand, and so when I saw this, I thought it would be a great idea to also advocate for the sexual abuse that goes on in the fashion industry, because it's actually not really spoken of. And so, yes, and so I'm really honored to be a part of this. So thank you to She Rises for that, and to all of you as well for this new journey. And I will pass this on to Adriana.
Thank you, Frances, and thank you for sharing. This is an incredible book for a lot of reasons, and I know we know that already. But sometimes the moments hit us in between, right? As each of us are speaking, we can feel it more and more and more and more and more. And it's surreal for many reasons, and some things don't have to be said for us to be able to feel that. My chapter title of this book is called Psychological Warfare, and I picked that title because my abuse started at a young age as well, and it was from when I was 5 to 10 years old, and it was in my home. It was a family member, and I didn't always understand, but I knew there was something wrong. I wrote the chapter the way that I did, and it's pretty short, and you guys will see. I start off with a poem and I end with a poem, because in some ways what happened to me, and I didn't share everything because I do want to have a moment to expand on it in a different platform too. But I wanted to explain from my understanding of things that this individual truly, you know, maybe didn't understand what he was doing to me or our family. And that was the thing, is I saw it as he was doing this to our family. That was the hardest part for me to gauge and understand, because coming from a place of having so much love that I talk about this a lot because it's truly something I feel. Um, I I just love a lot, and it's because I was loved a lot by my grandparents, by my family, by my parents, every family member, including the person that did this to me. And I know that sounds weird, um, but they were, and they were not stable, and it's hard to be sometimes upset with someone that they don't understand what they've done. So it's the chapter title was really a play on words in some ways. It was truth in most of the ways, and overall something I go through day by day, because it pops up, right? When we're going throughout our day, we can be good, and then something triggers us, and it gives you a setback, and you have to be prepared, but you don't know that you have to be prepared. So what do you do with that? So my chapter is truly to symbolize, what something like this takes us through as an individual. It doesn't even have to be the fact that we're women. Honestly, it doesn't. It's just what we go through. And so I know the bravery that it took for all of us to write this chapter, to be willing to let it be published, to come on here together and stand strong. So I'm proud of us. I'm proud of each of you, and I'm proud of all the listeners to listen with an open heart, because hearing this and receiving these messages can be equally as hard as it is to deliver, because you're having to embrace what may have happened to you or to someone you loved. That was another big thing that I didn't talk about in my chapters, what this meant for my family and them accepting, coming to terms of what I've been through and how they feel about that. So it's a lot, and I know we know that. But my ultimate message is that it's okay that we're still healing, and it's okay if you're never fully healed, because something like this is impossible to truly 100% heal from, because human nature is wanting to understand the why. And some of us don't get that why, because the person that did that doesn't understand why sometimes. I'm excited to share these things because they're so unspoken, they're so misunderstood, and it truly requires us as our individual selves to be able to empower ourselves to be willing to be healed, and to understand that is ultimate self-awareness. Anyway, so that's kind of what my share would be. The chapter is very truly symbolic. Reading everyone's chapters was hard, especially my mom's chapter, because it's hard to your mom. So I just want to thank everybody, especially my mom, for having the courage to come out here, make this book a reality. And I just want to thank each of you. So thank you so much, ladies. Let's see. Let's pass it over to Isabel.
She did say she was having some technical difficulties.
Oh, okay.
But we'll leave it open for her when she's ready, like if she can get in. There she is. Maybe not. I had to exit the screen a couple times because I was crying like crocodile tears, and it was the ugly cry, and I didn't want to scare everybody, but it's interesting. Number one, I was sitting back here and I'm looking at all of us and I'm like, wow, this is the first time and 8 books that we've done in 2 years, that every author showed up for like all of us together as a unit. And we had so many like bumps and bruises with this book, literally. I'm still stinging, but it didn't click to me until right now that when you're trying to break a cycle, or when you're trying to stand in your purpose, and when you're trying to speak up about something that is so almost unspeakable, that there's going to be like this resistance. There's going to be this force, that there's going to be this trickery and everything to stop something so powerful from happening, you know? And I feel like this time it's not going to work. The people who chose to stand and be a part of this book are truly warriors. Like, that's what we are. I don't ever see any woman as a survivor. I see them as a warrior. I always picture each woman who has had to experience this unfortunate topic as a woman with a shield, like just really trying to protect herself, but not even sometimes understanding what she's protecting herself from. And when you've been exposed to a traumatic experience like this, your guards go up. You're this guarded person. And sometimes we don't even realize it. And we behave out of protect mode, out of guarding. You have to retrain your mind not to think the worst in people, not to look at people in a different way, because your mind and heart truly at one point in time in your journey, if you've been exposed to this, has become tainted. And you stop looking at people for who they are as the true human being they are, and you start looking at them differently. And the other thing that I see in this is, as a mother, watching 2 of her daughters be on the same screen today is really hard. And it's really deep for me. And having to read their chapters, knowing what I went through more blame and shame because I didn't think I protected them. And that's hard. So writing this book was so deep on so many levels. So I'm going to pass it while we wait for everybody to regroup. I think Divya should speak. Her story is incredible. And then, yeah, we'll just keep the torch going.
Thank you, Hannah. And just to reiterate what some of you lovely ladies said, absolutely honoured to be a part of this amazing, amazing tribe. So I'm fighting back a few tears from what you said, Hannah. Just give me a second. So for the listeners or the viewers, I'm Divya Chandegra and I'm a wellness soul guide. I work again with professionals and parents in particular to heal their limiting, often debilitating childhood beliefs, our blocks, our programs, right? So that we can free our future generations from our unhealed wounds. And a lot of that starts with creating safe spaces for each other that are free from judgment, especially ourselves, Hannah. So my title is called Moving Through My Fears Freed Me to Find Myself. And a song that I associated with my chapter is Scars to Your Beautiful. And I don't know if anybody's heard it, but it's by Alicia Cara. And I think going back to what was said earlier, the scars will always be there. And they kind of form a part of our experience. But at the same time, as we heal through them, we allow ourselves to become who we're truly meant to be, which is beautiful, divine, and in our feminine power, right? That's what the support is there for. That's what we're here for, together as a tribe, and for other women who are unable maybe to speak up, or again, going back to not being able to actually acknowledge that this is something that has happened to them, because acknowledgement is the first stage of the healing journey, for me anyway. And I think it was like what Madison was saying earlier. It's interesting because I thought I had healed from my experience, but actually healing comes in layers. So as I was writing the chapter, I cried a lot. And then I realized I had never cried throughout any of the time. I just dealt with it. You just get on, don't you? You just deal with it. And it felt like maybe this was the final layer that needed to be released. You know, maybe this chapter for me is the final layer to allow me to fully release the trauma that I was holding in my emotional body, my energetic body, my physical body, my mental space, all of it. And I guess for me, a lot of it was about that fear of judgment or ruining the family reputation, or almost like dobbing in one of your own. Because really culturally and in my family, we just didn't talk about these things. It's not something that you're raised to be really open about. I think, and even more so, the additional layer was coming from like an Indian background, things that you just don't discuss with your family. So that was quite hard. And I think one of my key learnings was, you know, being able to ask for help, because my childhood programming was always about not being a burden to others. So that was a massive struggle and a learning for me. And again, I think back to what Rachel was saying earlier as well, a lot of our self-worth and our self-value and our self-respect as adults comes from our subconscious childhood beliefs and our programs. And the only way we can acknowledge those traumas is by getting to a point where we can accept it, so that we can release the trauma from us, from ourselves, so that we can begin to heal. And we know that healing is a journey. It's not, I'll do this one thing and that's it, you know, I'm good. It doesn't work like that. There's so many pillars that you need to actually work through within your subconscious programming to get to, you know, a state of healing that I guess you're comfortable with, that is just enough for you at the right time. And I guess what this chapter and what this book means to me, coming, like I said, from a British Indian background, is that we're talking about harassment and abuse is considered taboo. And I suspect that many, many women experience this, and they just don't have the ability to speak up. And it's because of the expectations of society or their family or their culture or their background that they're raised within, that we stay quiet. And the problem with that is that when we fail to speak up, it means that we're accepting that behavior. Just as importantly, we're teaching our future generations that, you know, the young men and women of tomorrow, that behavior is okay. And the real thing that I want to land is that it's not okay. And it's up to us to start healing those programs so that we can free future generations from having to experience the same or something similar. And a lot of that starts with, I guess, creating safe spaces, firstly for ourselves, you know, to go against convention or society, and just taking our shot to change what society is like, you know, the environments we're living in. And that starts for me by healing ourselves, and again, creating the environments of safe spaces, like free from judgment, spaces that we deserve, right? So yeah, sorry, I know that was quite a lot and quite emotional for me as well. But thank you all for being able to share your stories.
Thank you. And then, yeah, let's see if Isabel can.
Okay, I had to switch devices, guys. So sorry. But good morning. My name is Isabel. The name of my chapter is I Am Seen and I Am Heard. And it was actually kind of simple to pick the title of my chapter because as a kid, especially in the Latin community, you know, you are to be seen and you're not to be heard. You're not allowed to speak out. You're not allowed to have feelings. You know, why are you mad? Why are you sad? Change your face, you know, or, you know, that kind of thing. So to me, it took me a long time to finally come out and really release my story, because I did try to for a long time as a young girl, and nobody would listen. So to me, this is my way of being listened. I'm being heard, and the world gets to hear it. And I want young women and young children to understand that they can now be heard, and they can say something, and they're going to be believed, and they're going to have support. And sorry, I said I wasn't going to cry. I was so ready for this. But truth is you're never really ready for it. And it's true. Like, it's something that you're always going to be healing from. And the more that I talk about it, the more that I share, like, the better I do start to feel, because, you know, I got through it, you know, and I'm going to make sure my kids don't go through this. You know, they are going to be believed. They are going to be heard. You know, this generational curse, because believe me, it goes through my bloodline a lot, through my family. A lot of the women in my family went through this, and they couldn't speak out, and it just kept happening over and over and over again. And this is where it stopped, you know. And so anyway, so that's kind of what this book means to me. Let me show you my story. It's breaking that curse. You know, it's helping people understand that they can be seen, they can be heard. You know, more than anything, I think that what helped me was turning to God. You know, something that it wasn't taught to me as a kid. I was baptized Catholic, but it was like, oh, we'd go, you know, for Ash Wednesday or something, or, you know, there was like no real meaning behind it, or, you know. And when I did meet God, a lot of me inside of my mind, my heart, healed a lot. You know, forgiveness really does help your healing process, you know. And it's more about forgiving yourself, because you think that, well, God, why didn't I say something sooner? Or why didn't I say it louder? Or why didn't I this? Or why didn't I that? And you just got to forgive yourself first off and foremost, you know, and understand that it's not your fault. And then the rest comes later. You know, the forgiveness for everybody else comes later. But yeah, that's my chapter.
I think that we all thought we were going to come on here and smile. And we are smiling, but I also don't think any one of us was prepared. I didn't come with tissue. I wasn't really sure. You know, we had an author call. I think it was Friday or Thursday or Monday. Anyway, I don't remember what day it was, but it was recent. And I was telling the girls, like, you know, be prepared, be strong, expect questions. You know, we got this. And then we come on and we're sharing and we're speaking about what's happening. And then I look and everybody's doing this, you know, and it's because part of it is it's the reality. It hurts. You know, we talk in the book, and as you read this book, you'll see the layers that you spoke of. You know, healing comes in layers. It doesn't happen all at one time, and it's always changing, you know. And so I feel like for all of us as a whole, I think this was part of a healing moment. How we deal with that, we're also different. All the personalities of this book are different. Everyone was raised different. The incidences are also different. But the one thing that is the same is the voice behind what we're doing. And that is, it's never again. You know, when you're talking about breaking that generational cycle, that generational curse, it comes with something like this, helping educate and advocate for others. That's where the book takes an extra step in saying, it is me, but not again. And I'm going to stand strong and say to the next woman, here's things that you can recognize. Here's things that become red flags. If we educate society more on what those signs appear to look like, or how to protect women, we can't ever, unfortunately, stop what's happening, but we can bring more of the awareness, more of the advocacy, and we need more people to stand up and offer counseling. We need counseling services everywhere, not just in the US, but across the board. We need shelters. We need so many different things to happen. And it doesn't need to be, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it because I just don't come with a filter. I wasn't born with one. It doesn't matter the stature of a woman and who it happened to. So whether you're a celebrity and you're walking around with the sign that says those words, Me Too, hashtag, that's all great. But let's hit the nail on the head here and go a step further. Okay, you've exposed the person. You've stood up and out of the silence. But what are you doing right now? What are you doing right now? That movement came, it exists, it's happening. But how do we make sure that it never happens again? That's what this part is about. That's why it says never again, is how do we teach our young daughters and our young sons, because it doesn't just happen to women, it happens to men too. How do we help others recognize things that the behaviors and those types of perpetrators? And that's exactly what they are. I will not sugarcoat it. They are perpetrators. Part of my chapter, I ask, why does this evil even exist? I don't believe that's a question that's going to be answered today, or maybe ever. But I do believe that there's a way to stop the evil from spreading by being that voice, by stepping out, and by being a protector of ourselves. I was that victim 3 different times. Mine didn't stop until I was 21. And a lot of people ask, how could you be 21 and it still be happening? Number 1, it's in the chapter. Number 2, don't you dare judge me because you didn't wear my shoes. And number 3, educate yourself before you ask me that question. Because when a woman becomes suppressed and they don't know what to do, they become numb. And they stop reacting, they stop living, they die inside. And so this book is meant to bring out the life. It's meant to be the voice for those who can't. It's meant to be the voice for those who are afraid to be that voice. And I actually received a message from, I don't know, someone way on the other side of the world that I don't know, saying, why am I saying something now? Why didn't I say something then? Here's my answer to you. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready, and I was trying to protect the perpetrator because that perpetrator is still alive, breathing, and well. I wasn't ready, and I was trying to protect my kids. So there's your answer. I believe that person who messaged me is narcissistic. So I hope you take that answer and you can put it where the sun don't shine. I'm very, very proud of all the women for standing up and speaking their truth. And no matter what comes, because now the gates are open, the store is open. And I told you, ladies, we're going to get these funky questions because people do not understand it, or they are someone who's done it and they're repulsed at the fact that we're standing true and we're standing firm in our shoes. So I say congratulations to all of you. for being so brave, because this is one of the bravest moments I feel like each one of us have had. I wanted to throw it back to Nicole because Nicole talked for like 2 seconds. We really didn't get to hear from you. And then I just wanted each one of you, after she speaks, to just share what was the hardest part of writing this book. I have to know. For me, it was sharing the part about my children. That was the hardest part because I thought I was going to hurt them. So that was mine. But I want to hear from Nicole.
Thanks, Hannah. Oh, so many emotions, so many feelings. For me, my chapter is called Helping Women Heal from Child Sexual Abuse. It's something that I experienced when I was young for a while, quite a long time. And it carried throughout most of my life as a young girl, as a teenager, a young woman. It created many toxic relationships that I was in because I felt dirty and shameful and I wanted love. And I didn't know how to love myself because I felt so dirty, so unloved, so disvalued. And so I kept chasing relationships, either with, boys, having girlfriend relationships, just trying to find myself through other people. And that is really when I got trapped into the cycle of waiting to be given permission to do anything in my life because I had no value in myself and no self-respect, that I looked to other people for that permission to be who I wanted to be, to do what I wanted to do, to become who I wanted to become. And as the years carried, I got into a heavy binge eating years of my life where it became where it wasn't just in the heart affected, it was the body became affected from just the feeling of just being gross. And so I had this image of, if I give my heart to somebody, I can be loved. And if I look a certain way, I can be loved. And so I went into a really big pit of believing that I had to look a certain way to be a certain woman. And I'm here to tell you that you are perfectly and wonderfully made just how you are. And I am the woman I am today because of the shit that I went through when I was younger. I forgive, but I will never forget. And you know who you are. And writing this chapter for me, it's a healing process. I've done many years of counseling, of therapy, personal growth, building myself up in my leadership ability, and just creating a servant heart to serve women in life, in business, in my marriage, my relationships with my kids, my friends, my community, my colleagues. And today is the day where we're planting our flags. Today is the day where we're standing up and we're letting our voices be heard. We've all come from different parts in this journey. But one of the things that I typed just a little bit ago is our tears are changing lives. What we're feeling and what we're experiencing is coming out in a way of that we're here to support you. We're here to tell you you're not alone. We're here to tell you that you are loved and valued and beautiful and worthy and frickin' A. You are an incredible, powerful woman and man. Because it isn't just women that it happens to, it's men as well. And we are here for you. We support you. We honor you. We love you. We cherish you. And today is the day where we make history, where we made history. It's Me Too, but never again. We're here together as a band of sisterhood, sharing our voices, letting our messages be heard. And I am so proud of all of you women. I'm honored to be able to be on the screen with all of you beautiful women Hannah and Adriana, I appreciate and love you ladies so much for your courage and your strength and having the vision of this book project and welcoming us in to that, to be part of it with you. You guys will never know how much it's changed me and how much it's changed these women on this panel. I can guarantee it. I'm trying not to speak for you women, but I just kind of feel that in my heart. So if you're watching this and you've experienced this and you've gone through rape or molestation or child abuse, sexual child abuse, anything of that nature, reach out to one of us. We're here. And this isn't the last time that you've seen us. I guarantee it. Because today is day one in this movement. Today is the day where we're seen, and now you're going to stink and hear us. So that's all I got to say.
Dang. I don't even know what to say to that, except you are going to hear us, and it isn't going to be the last time you hear us. I would say, you know, I just have to know from each one of you what the hardest part of writing this book was. It was, and how many of you right now are sitting in your chair just shaking or nervous, or like your tummies? My tummy, I feel like it's like in outer space somewhere. Like all the nuts and bolts just went boing, all at one time. So who wants to talk first?
I'll go. I was just going to say it was definitely the title for me, because the title represents the message that I'm trying to get across. I know the experience comes through the chapter itself, but it's about the never again and the rising up and our perspective and how we can continue to move forward through our traumas. So that was the hardest thing for me to write, I think. And it was the thing that I did at the end. Who wants to go next?
I think Rebecca had her hand up.
Oh yeah, I can pop out. The hardest part of writing for me was returning to the pains and not taking them back on. Trying to remind myself of all the healing I've come through in 35 years of healing work that I've been doing personally, and keeping all that gain for myself and not letting all this garbage removal sully my spirit. So I just had to look at it as truly taking the garbage out. I don't have to live with it anymore. So that was the best part, was actually removing the garbage.
I'll go next. I think my hardest part of the chapter was speaking to my mother about this and like having to relive it from her, because it was hard for me to write. But just hear my mother lives in Michigan, I'm in Arizona, and then just hearing her on the phone be silent. If anyone's watching live that knows my mother, that's a very rare occurrence. The only reason why she'd be silent is because she's taking a drink or something. But the silence spoke so much more than anything. And it was just that moment of like, this didn't hurt just me. And the other kids that were also part of this. It wasn't just us. It was our families that felt this heartbreak as well. And once I realized that, I actually went back through my chapter and rewrote a lot of it, because it was like I had a new perspective because of my own mother's hurt from it. And just seeing your mom in pain is really hard. So whenever Hannah was talking about that, about her daughters as well, it was like, okay, that's my mom. That she felt that way too. So that was hard. I've rambled. I'm sorry.
Let's see. How about you, Rachel? And don't ever say sorry, Madison, by the way.
The hardest part for me was actually writing it, because there's more empathy the younger me, because I didn't get that empathy, I didn't get that compassion, or I wasn't held when I went through it. And that's part of my chapter, was that I wasn't believed. So there's part of me that didn't believe myself either. It's like, oh, I made it all up, or this didn't happen, or let's just push it aside. Let's not process it. So it gave me that chance to process. And I guess the me now was the therapist that I'm told. And so it made me feel more vulnerable, more compassion for that me then, and to see how my mum reacted and how I would have reacted a poles apart, and how like there's still that disconnect about how I don't understand. I mean, she had her own thing, and I talked to somebody today about it actually, so that was quite to see that it happened to her as well, and missed it. So that's why she reacted the way she did. But I'm 53 too, Rebecca, so it's about standing here and seeing that 19-year-old and that empathy and the connection, like time didn't happen, like I am her mother, and to give her the healing that she needed. And it was very thorough. And the other difficult thing was actually finding a title that would go like almost as long as a chapter. That was the difficult thing. That was the last thing I wrote, because it was just trying to put it into a succinct format. So yeah, thank you. Who wants to go next?
Thank you, Rachel. How about Frances? Do you want to go next? What was the hardest part?
Thanks, Adriana. I think the hardest part was really about being accepted. Coming from an Eastern culture, it is a taboo, and that's why I was like, it's important to even be a part of this book, to really advocate and say to younger people that, even though, yes, our cultures have never really spoken about it, but there's nothing wrong with you. This happens to anybody, and all of us are from so many different places, different nationalities and everything. And I think it's really important to highlight that. So I think the biggest thing for me was really about being accepted, because there was things like soliciting that kind of happened in my life. I had family members who I had a miscarriage, and so that they pretty much was like, don't come back home. So it was that kind of thing. And being an only child, there was just nobody else out there. So it was just kind of hard. And at the moment, I've just started seeing somebody. So I was like, I kind of hit them with this book. So I said, look, it's going to be out there. So, and I'm really grateful that they actually are really accepting of it. It's like we had long conversations, but I've, dated people where, they couldn't handle it. Like it was just too much for them. So they, and they said I was like really nice or whatever, but it's just not going to work out. So it's like, that's why I just avoid dating altogether. So that was, I think that was the hardest part for me.
Thank you, Frances. How about you, Jamie?
Wow. Well, so many emotions right now. What is it? Ice water that's supposed to keep it down. I don't have any right now. One of the things that I didn't mention that my chapter was mine happened directly. My oppressor picked me up after a car accident. So I was literally lifeless, and I couldn't fight, even though like you can hear the voice, but you can't fight back. And I am a fighter. And I'm also, anybody that knows me knows that I'm the one that is like the warrior for everybody else. But I needed to be that for myself. And I wasn't that. Coming to everything when something like this happens, and in the culture that I was in, I had a lot of support when I was in the military. I had a lot of great leadership over me, but I felt like if I said something, especially for what my job was, that I had to protect others too. And once you get to a certain point in a culture, they can't protect you. You're kind of on your own. And I don't know if any of you ladies, feel that way when that where people say like, "Well, why didn't you speak up?" Um it's very personal, like Hannah said, in each of our journeys how unique it was. And for me, I have children, two of them that were the same age that this happened to me. And just like Diva said, for me, in my own growth and healing, I said, I'm stopping 7 generations ahead of me and 7 generations back. This shit does stop with me. And I had to really articulate and think, how is it that I want to write the chapter? And I did write my chapter, and I wasn't vulnerable enough. I really felt like I needed to tell my actual story, not a motivational speech. And I had to really deep dive. And there was, when was thinking when things happen to our own children, and like Hannah, we want to protect our children. We want to keep them in the safety of the womb, and we can't. And it's not just for my children, though. This is for every child out there. This is for every human being that experienced. And so the biggest struggle for my chapter was the vulnerability that I had to put forth, especially because I was active duty. So there's a lot of opinions and different things, and it wasn't about the military. I just want to say that first and foremost. But there was a different culture, and each of us have different cultures. And that voice, to find that voice to be the light. I know I came here to be a part of something bigger than myself. And that's why all of us, I feel I can speak for all of us when I say that we are here for the masses just as beautifully as Hannah and all of you have spoken. So the hardest thing, again, it's just that putting that vulnerability, but to make sure that the message is clear for everybody, that healing light comes through. And like was already said, that when you rip these wounds open and you have to go back, and I'm 43, so when this happened to me at 20 years old, there was things that came up and shifted. So there is a layer of emotion even now, even when we felt as if we were there and healed, that we still experience. And so I am so thankful for our vulnerability and the emotion as well that we are showing, because with every tear comes another healing. And so I think I've went a little bit more on than just that, but yeah, there's so many things to really pinpoint. Just one thing is really difficult. That stands out for me. So, but I'm so honored. I'm so honored to have this opportunity, and this is never again, period. And I'm just so thankful and honored to be a part of all of this.
Well, thank you, ladies, for coming, for being a part of this book, being a part of the journey, being a part of the movement. There was something that Frances said, and it clicked. This type of thing doesn't have a boundary. It doesn't understand a race, a creed, a culture, an age, male or female. It really doesn't. It doesn't respect any of that. And so my last message would be, the never again can be that boundary set for all culture, for all ages, male, female, all of that. And the vulnerability has to be there. Even when the fiery darts are coming our way, you just have to put the shield up and you have to stand strong, and there's no going back. You know, this is where we're at. And we have a panel discussion, I believe Thursday, if anybody wants to double check that or give me a thumbs up, where we're going to dive deeper. Yay. Okay. So we have a panel discussion Thursday, and we're going to dive deeper into this particular subject. And we're going to really rip off some Band-Aids then. And there's going to be more transparency. There's going to be more exposure. And so we're asking for those of you who are watching, and I know one person in particular who's been watching, who was afraid to share. Maybe it's coming for you. Maybe your time to open up and release is coming. You know, we've done through She Rises, we're still babies. Literally, we're babies in the terms of a company. 2 years, 9 books, and each book having its own birthing pain, literally. This book has been probably the hardest one. It came with the morning sickness, the afternoon sickness, like the whole thing, like it felt like birth times 10. And I keep looking at all the women who we work with and all the different countries that we've expanded into. And it's because women are finally taking a stand and saying, not just with this type of book, but books in general, being a voice in general, speaking up for women, like breaking some of the stigmas. You know, we have so many different boundaries or restrictions that have been given to us as women. And I feel like this book just bursted and broke another one. So I'm really excited for everyone to get their hands on this book, to really fully understand what the message is. And each chapter I read over and over and over and over, and it just really gave me some insight as to where each one of us is coming from, learning to understand one another, learning to have that grace, have that forgiveness, and accept us where we are. Because none of us in the world are perfect, right? None of us are. I always say progress over perfection. This is definitely one of those progressive steps. And I'm just very grateful to each one of you who have chosen to be a part of our family. And families have fights. We argue, we banter, but true family and true purpose and true love will always cover, period. In other words, no matter what, no matter who, no matter how, the love I know that I have, and I know that my daughter has, for every single one of you is very deep and very strong. And I can say that because I know my baby. And my other baby who's on here, she's a tough baby. That's a fighter right there. She's the vocal baby. And I have 2 other daughters, and it's this company and all these different things that we've done, or that I've wanted to do, was to build a legacy for them, but also to build a platform for women who are going to come behind me, who are going to continue to support my babies and other women as well. So thank you from me to all of you, to all 9 of you, for being a part of this journey, for being a part of the family. And I'm very excited to grow with you, alongside you, never behind or in front, but always right by your side is where I see you. So we're going to close out today, and we'll be sending out links soon for you to get your hands on this book. Please join us on Thursday at 4 p.m. PST. I believe that we're all going to be there. And, please reach out if you're watching and any one of these women has spoken to your heart, you align with particular peoples, reach out to them. Every single one of them has an open door to you and a handout saying, come. So if that's you, reach out to whoever, any one of us, and I promise you, you're going to come to open arms. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today for our Light the Torch of Me Too, but Never Again.